Tell me, did you finally shed your skin? And did you start over again and get it right? Rebelling, committing endless sins, abandoning your family and your friends for this love.
Hey folks, Dave here, and welcome back to the Backyard Battlefield, my firearm project and history series. Like a lot of you guys, I've been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2, and that game's incredible attention to detail in both its setting and its firearms inspired me to finally go out and pick up a Winchester model of 1897 shotgun. Whoa. This is Cece. She's 24 years old, and she's been real patient with me. So, let's go on over this way, and we'll get started with some shooting.
We make peace, we lay awake at night, we form teams, we never...
Later in this video, we're going to see how accurate Rockstar's version of this shotgun is in-game, but first, let's take a look at the real thing. These 1897s were manufactured in both 16 and 12 gauge. This one is a full-size 12 gauge. Let's go ahead and just put some shells down range here. This is one of the first commercially successful magazine-fed shotguns, released in 1897, as the name implies. It is pump action, magazine fed, and it did see just a little bit of use at the end of the Old West. So you should be able to do 5 shells there in the tube. Has a beautiful action. You pump it, and the elevator grabs a shell and right into the chamber. So let's go ahead and shoot some stuff here. Start with our zombie heads here. And we're out. Got one more bowling pin left, so I'm gonna open the action, slap a shell, good to go. What a fantastic weapon. This thing is awesome. You guys might also recognize this as, I love the smoke. This would be the base model for the US Army's 1897 trench gun. It was hugely popular because it has no trigger disconnector, which means you can hold the trigger down and slam fire it. Let's have Jeremiah do some shooting in slow motion so we can really see how slam fire works. All you have to do is hold down the trigger as you work the action. Once the new round is in the chamber and the bolt has returned to battery, the hammer automatically drops and the round is immediately fired. There's only 2 real downsides to slam firing. The first is, pumping the action forward right before the gun goes off means that you're going to be affecting your aim and probably shooting low. Secondly, it's also easy to go through all of your ammo before you even realize it. We've got our steel target set up once again, including some new bad guy flipper targets from over at shootingtarget7.com. Whoa. So we're gonna do some shooting, but not from CC today. Whoa. She's not too sure about all these new things out in her pasture. Now, thankfully for my rusty horsemanship skills, if there are any left, shooting from horseback was mostly a Hollywood trope, even though you do it a bunch in Red Dead Redemption. It really was something that you would want to avoid unless you really had to do it, especially because with a pump action shotgun, you have to completely let go of the reins in order to work the pump, leaving only your legs to control your horse. That requires some serious horsemanship, something that I'm not going to lay claim to at all. Whenever possible, you would want to dismount in order to engage on foot. So now that I'm off the horse, let's go ahead and take out some of our bad guy targets over here. So we missed that first one a little bit low. I can open the action up, pull a shell off the belt, good to go again. I got a piece of it. But you gotta hit those targets right at the top to knock them over, seeing it's just birdshot. It is so fantastically easy to shoot this thing. Fast though. As you guys can see, we had a bunch of the shot on target, just not high enough to actually flip it. That barrel's getting toasty. It's knocking my safety glasses off. Even with birdshot, sawed-off 12 gauge, it's got some decent recoil to it. I do love with these pump action shotguns how quickly you can get back into action if you're caught during a reload, the chamber's empty. You just slap that shell in and pump it forward and you're good to go. I just can't get enough of that, so we're gonna try to do one really quick on these targets right here.
And go. And go.
Again guys, while this is a model of 1897, this particular one is a Takedown model, which came out the next year, 1898. I'll show you guys over on the bench how it takes down. But this serial number, if the database that I checked is correct, was actually manufactured in 1906. So this thing is well over 100 years old. And Winchester over-engineered this thing so well. The receiver is so thick, it can easily handle modern, what is now smokeless powder, everything is smokeless powder loads. But for the time, for 1897, smokeless powder was still relatively cutting edge. And this shotgun in particular was designed to replace an earlier pump action, the model of 1893, which was designed for black powder. And Winchester was quite worried that as smokeless powder became more popular, people would blow up their model 1893s by trying to use modern shells in it. So they actually recalled as many of those 1893s as possible, and today they're almost impossible to find. From what I understand, you could actually turn in your 93 and get a brand new smokeless powder 97, which was pretty high tech for the time. Smokeless powder, shotgun shells just right out of the box and right into the shotgun. The future is here, and 100 years later it still works great. How awesome is that? When you're working the action and the hammer is already cocked, you've got to go just a little bit forward on the pump to unlock it. Go ahead and chamber one, a little bit forward on the pump. Got bandits attacking the camp. Just awesome. What a fantastic shotgun. Let's take it over to the bench and get out of this snow. When I first bought this shotgun, the previous owner had cut down the original stock quite a bit, unfortunately. It was way too short of a length of pull for me. And so, while it is a shame to lose the original stock, I went ahead and swapped it out for a full-sized reproduction. The only real downside for this replacement stock is that it has a later production style pistol grip on the stock, whereas the original Western versions had this kind of nub style grip on them instead. On the Takedown model, you have this pin here at the end of the magazine tube. You can pop that pin through, rotate the magazine tube, and then pull the magazine tube out of the threads, at which point you can rotate the entire barrel, and the shotgun takes down into two parts for easy transport. The original barrel for this shotgun was definitely the hunting length. It was 10 inches longer at 28 inches instead of the cut down 18 inches that it is now. The previous owner did a pretty good job cutting it down, with just one issue When he put that bead sight back on the end of the barrel, he put it about 3 degrees to the right of the actual top of the barrel. There is no true rear sight for this shotgun, just a groove in the top of the receiver. There's also no real safety on the 1897. There's only the half-cock position of the hammer, which is really more like 3/4 cocked, and you've got to lower the hammer manually with your thumb as you pull the trigger. So if you've chambered around and you're trying to lower the hammer to that half-cocked position, if your thumb slips, you're going to drop that hammer all the way and discharge your shotgun negligently into your wall or your hunting buddy. We're gonna give Joel, our loyal cameraman here, a chance to try it out. What do you think holding it, Joel? Feel pretty good?
Yeah, it's pretty light. I think that's pretty cool. So I hit this button, I push it forward, and then pull it back, right?
That's it, yep.
Like that?
That's it.
Okay, and then each shot is the same thing.
Yep.
Okay. I'll go for the orange ones. Out. That was cool, man.
A little bit of chamber smoke there. All right, close her up. So what are your impressions, Joel?
Well, first, I mean, like, dude, it's so light. And this is the action, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's very smooth.
Not bad for a gun that's 120 years old, right?
From being a kid watching, like, Western movies and seeing this stuff, you're just like, I feel awesome. The wood is beautiful. It's beautiful.
I also want to talk about my sling here for just a minute. I used just a simple Uncle Mike's shotgun barrel clamp for my front sling loop, because from what I can tell through my research, only the trench versions of the 1897 ever came stock with a front sling loop. I was only able to find one example of the civilian version here from an online auction where someone's gunsmith has rather poorly attached a front sling loop. As far as I can tell, this just wasn't a standard factory option. So I'm going to assume that this was something that was up to your local gunsmith, but if you guys have more info, be sure and share it down in the comments. Thankfully, my reproduction stock did come with a cutout for the rear loop, and I attached one taken from a trench gun. Let's also take a quick look at this paper shotgun shell. All of the original smokeless powder loads for this shotgun would have been paper shells similar to this one, although I'm not sure how old this particular shell is right here. So before we call it a day out here at the range, I have a more modern shell that has quite a historical legacy with me that I do want to try. And it's ball and shot. From what I understand, this ammo was actually a personal favorite of George Washington, and it's just like it sounds, ball and shot. It is one large ball, so not quite a slug. It's smaller than a slug, which is good for an older shotgun. And then a few rounds of buckshot behind that. I believe it's either 4 or 5 balls, looks like 5 balls. This is probably gonna kick a lot more than the birdshot. I've got a, well, slightly sloppy looking silhouette target down here, our classic police target. We're gonna fire a few rounds of this ball and shot and see what kind of pattern we get out of this just over 18-inch barrel with just the full cylinder choke. It'll probably open up a bit, but I just wanna see what kind of hole we put in that paper. That is a tight fit on the chamber. Yeah, I felt that one. One of these two is the ball, and then one of them is the wadding that holds the shot together. This is just a loose paper target, so our wadding went right through, but yeah, that's definitely the wadding seen. It's a more jagged hole, and this appears to be where our ball went through. And then the buck, I got one of the bucks here, and then one down there. I was a little bit left there. That did some damage though. Make sure everything's all right. Yeah, it took it pretty well. Let's do some more. And then I also want to put one on our targets over here. So I'm going to step just a little bit this way. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to go for that left target. Did you hear that, Joel? Oh man. That might have been a little bit heavy to shoot at that size steel. Let's take a look. Wow, that's I mean, we were only 13, 14 yards away, but that is a tight pattern. All the ball and shot in the 9 ring, it looks like. That is what I would definitely call a home defense round if you want a mess to clean up. And then over here, it looks like I was a little bit low again. Yeah, target's okay actually. That's a really awesome round. I'm glad I picked some of those up. Well, let's go ahead, finish off these targets, do one more on paper, and then we're gonna call it a day out here before our daylight's gone. I've backed up quite a bit here. I wanna see how this pattern opens up because again, this is a cut down barrel. And we're gonna see if we can knock both of those targets over and get one more on the paper as well. Does help if you put the shells in forward. So that was one on paper. Gotta remember, aim a little bit higher than what you would expect. Wow, that went flying. You guys can probably hear the clank. That is some serious ammunition, and it definitely has a solid punch to the recoil, but for a gun that is this light and this maneuverable, I'm not gonna complain. That's still very, very controllable. That is an incredibly tight pattern for, what was that, probably 20 yards away maybe? Yeah, I would take that into a gunfight for sure. What an incredible shotgun and an incredible piece of history. So that leaves the question, how does Rockstar's treatment of the Winchester 1897 hold up in Red Dead Redemption 2? Well, in my opinion, this game does this shotgun pretty good justice. They depict it quite accurately, and the game's animation and ballistic systems do a great job of really showing the power of this classic 12-gauge shotgun. In-game, it's just called the pump-action shotgun, but as soon as you see it, it's unmistakable what it is. The sound effects for both the pump action as well as firing sound fantastic. You can really feel those gunshots.
It's them again! Damn it! Still some here. I can see that.
And visually, the gun looks excellent, especially if you start customizing some of the metals and woods. And although there is some odd texture detailing on the left side of the receiver that doesn't match anything in real life and doesn't look that great, most of the texture work and modeling looks fantastic and is 100% accurate. I'd say overall, a really solid job by Rockstar reproducing this shotgun. There's also some great details when riding on horseback with it, where Arthur will let go of the reins in order to work the pump action. After all, that is a two-handed job. Like I mentioned earlier, that's where some serious horsemanship is going to have to come in, because you're going to have to use just your legs to keep control of your horse as you're firing this loud shotgun off their back. Overall, there's only two odd things about the 1897 in Red Dead Redemption 2. The first of which is, if you're riding on horseback and you put the shotgun back into the scabbard, when you draw it back out, even though you've already pumped a round into the chamber, your character will chamber it once again. This can go on indefinitely. Every time you put it back in the scabbard, when he pulls it back out, he chambers it once again, even though you never see him unload it. Just one odd oversight in a game that has such incredible attention to detail everywhere else. The other odd issue is, if you use the game's Deadeye mode, and you've already fired a couple rounds from the shotgun, as soon as you enter that Deadeye slow motion mode, you magically get all 5 rounds back in the shotgun again. I can almost guarantee that that's done for gameplay purposes though. Over the course of my time in Red Dead 2, I unlocked semi-auto and higher capacity shotguns, but the 1897 always remained my first choice as I tried to stick to the plan.
Ready?
Ready.
call me Danger.
They don't call him Danger. I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at the Winchester model of 1897. These are legal to own in just about all parts of the United States, and they're not too expensive, so if this video piqued your interest, you should check out your local shooting club and see if they've got some shotguns for you to try out, and perhaps even you might find one of these 97s like I did in really great condition. Once you dip your toes into some of the history of these firearms and some of the target shooting, I can almost guarantee you might be hooked as well. As always, all firearm safety rules were followed in the making of this video, especially as we were working with live horses who are animals, very large animals with their own personalities and quirks. So big thank you to Ellen and Josie from out at the ranch for helping with our horseback segments of this video. This video took a lot of hard work from a bunch of different people, so let me give some shout outs. First of all, thank you to you guys over on Patreon, patreon.com/RangerDave. Your support of the channel over there directly helps to support projects like this one. Also, a big thank you to Joel, who remains a filming and cameraman wizard. He did a bunch of our filming for this video and a lot of the color work. You're gonna find a lot of his work over at normanthefilm.com, as you can see here. He's got some really cool stuff coming, so make sure you guys sign up for the newsletter and you'll get notified as soon as Norman the Film is actually ready to watch. Also, a big thank you to Jeremiah, Germ Gaming. You can find him at youtube.com/germgaming for sacrificing a snowy weekend for doing some target shooting out in the snow instead of staying home where it was warm. Additionally, thank you to Ben over at Knapsack Creative for help with the camera equipment for this project, as well as the guys over at shootingtarget7.com for sending us some of those zombie head targets a while back. Those are still holding up great. That's also where I picked up all of my steel targets, including those flippers. They do some great work over there, so make sure if you guys are looking for your own steel targets, you go and check them out. For now, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Backyard Battlefield. It's hard to talk and hold the reins at the same time. Yeah, come here.
Hard to walk it too, though.
Holding the gun, holding the reins, talking to the camera. It's tough, isn't it, girl?
by myself.